And to center us and open us in prayer, I'm going to ask Natalie Ortega, our lovely Lewis Hall Senator, to lead us.
Hello? Okay. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lord of all goodness, you sent your Holy Spirit to us that we may produce the fruit of good works to our neighbor. Help us learn the value and power of kindness. May we humble ourselves and be patient with others, learning to hold our tongue of sharp words and irritable reprimands. Maybe strive to work on saying a kind word to someone each day, to speak kindly of others, and to shape our thoughts so that we may never think unkindly of someone. When we have fallen from this resolution, guide us in an act of contrition and to resolve to make up for our error by an extra act of kindness to our neighbor. Remind us that it costs us very little to be kind, but the rewards of such deeds are the lifting of someone's sorrow and giving them a lighter heart and a vision of hope, or showing them the face of Jesus in our smiling words. Help us to improve day by day in a kindly disposition until it becomes second nature to us. We ask this through Christ our Lord, in the union with the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thanks so much, Natalie. That was really beautiful and centering. All right, without further ado, we can proceed to the roll call, and I'll hand it on over to Catherine.
Isabella Garcia. Here. Daniel Shermerhorn. Here. Sarah Kirsch. Here. John Mansfield. Here. Christina Esperdillo. Mike Dugan. Present voting. Okay. Anoop Sumpara. Here. Michael Miratani. Here. Jordan Leiden. Here. Niels Casperson. Here. Maggie Allen. Here. Albertina Estrada Martinez.
Here.
Henry Jackson. Benjamin Earhart.
Present.
Jason Thomas.
Here.
Natalie Ortega. Here. Molly Strack. Here. Elaine Teeters. Here. Ahmed Al-Hassani.
Here.
Nick Campson.
Here.
Bianca Burnett. Here. Carson Thompson. Here. Libby Messman. Here. Anisha Japira. Here. Michael Lynch.
Here.
Miles Kelly.
Here.
Alex Kovalowski.
Here.
Patrick Lee.
Here.
Grace Franco. Here. Teresa Salazar. Here. Henry Bates.
Here.
Blake Johnson.
Here.
Johnny O'Meara.
Here.
Renee Pearson. Here. Sam Canova.
Here.
Ricardo Poses Garza.
I'm here.
Connor Delaney.
Here.
Rachel Engel. Here. Thomas Davis.
Here.
Aaron Benavides.
Here.
Grace Stevenson.
Here.
Murray Trapp. Here. Julia or Kurt. Here. Austin. Tiffany Pages Sanchez.
Here.
Esteban Ramirez. And Karen Kennedy.
Great, I guess we'll keep it rolling with Catherine then for the approval of minutes. So you all were able to see her minutes from last time. Any questions, comments, concerns? All right, seeing no questions, comments, concerns, approved. Beautiful work as always, Catherine. And now we can welcome our very special guests. Super excited to have them here today. We've got Chrisabaya Singha, Senior Director of Campus Dining, Cheryl Bauer, Director of Sourcing and Sustainability, and Luigi, remind me of your title.
Gandhi, and as they are club student there.
Awesome. Well, they come bearing gifts. If you guys didn't see the sweet treats in the back, but they also come bearing a really wonderful presentation, and we'll get to engage in Q&A with them after that. So we'd welcome you guys to the front to come share.
Thank you. I should come here more often. It's not every time I actually get a round of applause whenever I walk into a classroom. So please know the pleasure is all mine. I'm Chris Singh. I'm the Senior Director for Campus Dining. Thank you for actually having myself and a few members of my team here. Today's visit stems from a series of ongoing engagements we have had with student government over successive years. So it's actually nice to see a few faces around here from before. It's always good seeing you. And I think additionally provides at least myself and my team the opportunity to come and share with you what's happening in the dining program and further kind of discuss and continue an engagement about what are the steps we're actually looking to do going further into the semester as well as for the next semester as well. So I think before we begin kind of our pseudo presentation of sorts, not realizing we were actually in an auditorium, we came with simple items to help pass around, but if I can maybe narrate a journey of what our learnings has been since we started the semester. So this has been, and I'm sure you guys have heard this time and time again, this has truly been a very unprecedented time. And as I reflect on my career thus far, this has truly been probably the most flexible and most pivoting of times. With that, when we first welcomed our students back, I have to share this with you. Personally, I was incredibly excited, right? Having gone from seeing many of you off in March to actually being able to welcome you guys back on campus was actually really neat. You could see campus come alive. And for foodies like ourselves, this is really what drives us, right? So just being able to see folks there and then walking through what all of these changes have been. Some of you might remember the lines that we had when we began. And those lines sometimes went outside of the dining halls. And then we had to learn on the fly pretty quickly how best to maintain physical distancing, right? Which for us was arguably new language in and around a industry that actually brings people together. So my team went through that process, and then we began working on, so how do we actually improve the dining experience as a whole? Because for some of you who remember what dining was like the year before, right? This was a dining program or dining halls you could go into and be able to select everything that you so choose. That now combined with the program and the process through distribution, there was significant learnings for us there. And over the last few weeks, I'm hoping that you all have seen both at South Dining Hall and also at North Dining Hall, a continued enhancement of what those dining options are. For example, tonight I was over at South Dining Hall and we decided to pick up some of the desserts that we actually had in the dining hall itself. So you'll notice in the back, this is of course for afterwards on your way out when you do pick them up. You'll see red velvet cake back there. You'll also see some of our favorite apple pie, but my personal favorite, which is a Boston cream pie. Additionally, we also brought some of our cut fruits. You'll see berries, you'll see melons, and all sorts of things, which you will also find in the dining halls as you go through the experience. Again, just wonderful, wonderful things. But my favorite this evening was the fact that when I was over at the vegan station at South Dining Hall, not only could I choose the meal that was being presented, but that they actually had pakoras which tasted like pakoras. And that is again just a continued evolution, if you will, of our dining program today. Which actually brings us then further to kind of the discussion tonight, which I'm hoping on being able to walk you through and really seek your input on. Because based on the outcome of tonight's conversation, we want to begin rolling out a series of steps, if you will. However, this has also been very much student curated in many ways, and I'm going to ask Cheryl Bauer, who has this great role in my organization and does wonderful work with sourcing and sustainability, to kind of maybe talk through what we have heard when it comes to our sustainability footprint and kind of share with you what our path forward looks like. Okay, so with that, let me just turn this over. Cheryl.
Thank you, Chris. So one of the things that we've heard from you over the years is that we want to be a more sustainable campus. And going into this new venture that we are in this year, we knew that that was going to be really hard. Needing to package all the food, we wouldn't be able to use our reusable cutlery, our plates. So we made the conscious decision to get compostable containers. We thought that that was going to be the right step and that things would be well. Well, unfortunately, we found out there's been some hurdles with those containers because of some of the changes we've had to make and the ways that we've needed to make food as efficient as possible so that you guys can make it to your classes and get through the lines when we have to socially distance. They aren't holding up as well as we were hoping to. They're great compostable containers, but you add moisture, you add heat, what do? They start to break down. And that's exactly what's been happening. And we've heard the comments from you that you're having some issues with that. They also do not transfer heat very efficiently. And so we've also heard the comments from many students that your food is not as warm as you would prefer it to be. And that's also a concern for us because we want to keep it as safe as possible. And we know that heat is the #1 way to do that. So what we're looking at doing through the help of many students, the conversations with Dana, with various students from freshmen through seniors, we're looking to make a change to something that's called an MFPP, or mineral-filled polypropylene container. One of the pluses of these, you're not going to have any issues with them and accidents. They transfer heat extremely well. They're made in Minnesota versus Southeast Asia, so the footprint of these is extremely better. Sustainability is supporting us in this decision. So even though this is a mineral-filled polypropylene versus compostable, they all end up in a landfill. We don't have looked into taking the compostables to other facilities, but the emissions that would come from that is not sustainable either. So this is something that's going to be a benefit. Not to mention they have compartments in them now, so your food's not going to touch as much. So one of the positives, and I don't know if you know what a mineral-filled polypropylene is, there's less than 50% polypropylene in it. The rest of it's made up of calcium carbonate. So they can break down eventually over time. There is ways to compost them or landfill them in positive scenarios. So these are all things that are working towards our benefits. Do you want to go on with the other pieces?
So as we're passing these items around, if you guys could just get a feel for it, let us know how that holds up. So kind of what we're looking to solve, is 3 very distinct yet tangentially related areas, right? So number 1 is to continue to ensure that we have as small a carbon footprint, if you will, when it comes to the continued service model that we have, which is takeout. Secondly, responding to the feedback we have heard from students in and around just thermal retention, if you will, in the containers, and equally ensuring that when you do serve a meal in there, that the food doesn't kind of like bleed into each other there. And then I think thirdly is to also ensure that we provide a product that has as close a sourcing radius as possible for us here in Minnesota versus where the current compostable containers come from, which is in Asia. So as we're passing those around, if you could just kind of get a feel for it, let us know what you think. But we also have another component to this experience as well.
Absolutely. One of the things that we did right before everyone came back, because we started to get concerned about everyone taking the containers and the multiple containers out of the dining hall and being able to do a juggling act, because we learned about a week before you came back that you would not be able to sit inside the dining halls at all. We brought bags in just to try and make it easier for you. It wasn't a decision we felt really good about, but we wanted to make sure that you would be able to carry what you needed to carry across campus to where you needed to go. We've heard a lot of comments about this, and so we are actively removing the bags from the dining halls right now. This week, you should probably see a decreased amount of bags and stands there, and starting next Monday, they're going to be gone. We know that a lot of you have your own reusable bags. If you don't have reusable bags, you've made shopping trips to Myers, Target, Martin's, and you have disposable bags that you can utilize. But in case you do need a bag, we brought in some bags that fit into a nice little pouch and are going to be able to hook onto the back of your backpack and hold all the containers that you need. We're selling them at cost, so we aren't looking to make any kind of profit on them. They are washable, and they are from the Be Green company, so they are extremely sustainable as well. You'll be able to pick them up at the dining hall should you need them, or at Huddle Mart.
And then as Cheryl struggles to place that back in her pouch in order to be able to clip it to her pocketbook, there is, I think, a third piece that we heard from student leadership and also from the emails, sometimes social media, where students will actually tag me on certain items. I learned all about TikTok this semester as well. Fascinating. And I will say artfully very creative as well. So with that being said, we were challenged, rightfully so, on the single-use cutlery kits that you guys will see in the dining hall. So in that vein and in that effort, we also have a plan for the reduction and then elimination of single-use cutlery plastics. And as such, we've actually brought for student government tonight the new kits and what they will look like, because we're going to go through a process of issuing them as well for all of you to be able to take. So if you'd like to talk about that.
Sure. So what we've done is we've put together some kits. We tried to source some that are already made, but trying to get your hands on 21,000 meal kits in about a 2 weeks time frame, not possible today. So we're building kits for you. And if any of you are interested in being able to be a part of this journey with us, we are more than welcoming you to come to Pizza Pie to help us build these. It's just really simple. It's a nice little muslin bag, and inside of it, you're going to find 3 pieces of stainless steel cutlery, knife, fork, spoon, and a set of washing instructions, just in case there's any questions on that end, because we want to make sure that the cutlery is taken care of and everyone's safe as well. We're issuing each student 2 kits. That way you can have one back in your room being washed, drying, and you can be sure to have one in your bag with you at any given time. And then should something happen, you misplace it, you lose it, we'll also have them for sale at the dining halls or at the Huddle Mart. Again, just for a $3 price tag, so it's cheaper than you can get it off of Amazon. But we want to make sure that you have what you need. Not to mention, it's much easier to cut your meat with stainless versus the plastic. And in these new containers, you're going to be able to cut inside of them without cutting through the bottom. So it seems like a win-win all the way around.
So as we go through the process of passing these around for you all to keep, just wanted to maybe open up the floor and ask for, or solicit, if we can, any feedback on some of the items we covered, if you guys think this makes sense, if we're going the right way with it, etc. So I do saw you first.
Pretty quick question. I might have just missed it. Much like the bags, you're going to eliminate the reusable cutlery as well?
The single-use cutlery, yes. Yes, that's correct. Yep.
So I guess one thing I heard a lot about, thank you. So one thing you mentioned a lot about was the actual containers that we're putting food in. Do you guys have any updates on cups, what that is going to look like? I know I've been getting a lot of complaints from people in Dillon that they'll pick up a cup and it's already crumbling, in addition to them using a plastic lid that's probably going to wind up going into a landfill anyway. So what are the plans for sustainability on that and also improving the quality of service?
Thank you. So with the cup, we've actually run into, from a learning perspective, the same thing that we began with the compostable container, because it is not lined the way that is. Obviously, the liquid over time will then begin the process of sweating onto the cup itself, and then eventually begin the breakdown process, which is what it's supposed to do. Currently, in our code for food service, if you will, we cannot allow students to refill their own beverages because that's kind of what we're required to follow. So our staff will still have to fill them up. If you've been at South Dining Hall recently, you would have seen on your way out that we've actually positioned now beverage machines outside where we've lined up the cups to help narrow down the time, if you will. And over time, what we're seeking is an actual replacement for that vessel itself that will help us get to where we are right now with the other containers. Yep. Hey.
This is not necessarily a question, and I don't think they need the microphone, but I just want to thank the campus dining staff for everything they've done to accommodate the students' needs. I think all of these ideas are really great, and I love the effort to improve the sustainability aspect. So thank you so much for that.
Okay. Now that was pretty cool. And I will pass it on to our staff when I send out the next department email. Thank you. I thought I saw some hands up. Oh.
My name is Neil. It's nice to meet you all. And I work in the dining hall. And a lot of times when I'm on grill, I experienced, I don't know if I'd call it the dissonance between like the chain of command, but being, like behind the counter, it's a bit different than just asking for the food. And one of the things I've experienced the most is hearing some of the chefs talk about how they often feel, understaffed. Like the students will just show up for an hour and a half and then leave. And now like 2 guys have to feed an entire undergraduate student body. And I was just wondering, like, what kind of systems do you guys have in place to kind of field those concerns, or what do you have in place to make your staff feel supported, I guess? Because I know like a lot of the people in this room, if we were to get jobs, wouldn't know a thing about, serving French fries to 8,000 undergrads. And the people that do don't really feel like they're being supported a lot.
Yeah, great question. Very, very valid. So as you can imagine, we've been through a lot, right? We have to pivot many, many times. We had a system, we have to break it down, we need to rebuild it. Pleased to say that in this, at this moment, actually last week, we did a staffing model for both dining halls, where we put and built a baseline for the requirements of the amount of food. We do roughly between 9,000 and 10,000 meals per day. That equates about, going with the current takeaway model, about 29,000 containers per day. Those need to be filled by people, right? Obviously. So that's a change from last year. So what we did is we got together with the human resources, with the leadership at the dining halls as well. And we elaborated and we defined the needs of the staff that we had. You just mentioned, and then it's actually culinary staff that we need more. So we actually posted positions today. We're interviewing. Hopefully we have a new hires coming very, very soon, and we'll continue to do so. So yeah, that sentiment also was combined by the sense of we're changing. It was a big change from last year. So the chef needed to adjust a little bit for that particular model as well. Does it help? Yeah, all right, cool.
Chris, if you want to take 5 minutes more worth of questions, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. Now that is the reminder that I only have 5 minutes left, which is great as well. So I just want to be mindful.
Thank you. So big second to the point that was made over there. Thank you so much for being here. Just to add a quick question, you guys did mention a timeline with phasing out the disposable bags in favor of reusable bags. Do you guys also have a timeline for these stainless steel eating utensils as well?
So I'm going to look at Cheryl because I might go on a limb and give the wrong date, but we're going to begin distribution the week of September 28th. Correct. Correct? Okay. So we're going to look to distribute the week of September 28th because we're going to take this week to effectively build the kits. So if anyone wants to volunteer, we'll feed you too in case you do help us build these things. Thank you. Probably one more question? Yes.
Honestly, like commending the efforts of the dining hall. Thank you like so much for everything you're doing. But this is just like slightly nitpicky, but I've been hearing people say that the screens in the dining hall are reflecting the things that aren't exactly being served. So the displays are like not exactly like matching the things, which is causing like slight confusion and delays. And like that's why people are like bumping into each other and stuff like that. So if it's possible, if you could like work around the technical display of that, that would be great.
Thank you. And yes, you are correct. We do have some work to do on that. And I will add, I think, further to the question on specifically the staffing. So what Luigi was speaking about was the additional positions that we've added, which you might have also noticed starting this week. You can actually go through the line where our staff will actually serve you into the container itself right there versus in the past where we would do a lot of containers. So that way we can also reduce the amount of extra work that goes into that. So you'll see that as well. You got it, the vegan station, and now also the main homes front station as well. Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, Cheryl, and Luigi. It was wonderful to have you guys all here with us today. If you guys have any further questions for them as well, we have an ongoing working relationship with them. Please feel free to send them our way and we'll get them to them in campus dining. And thank you guys for going above and beyond with those desserts as well. It'll be much appreciated. All right, well, I know I'm already looking forward to a Boston cream pie, but without further ado, we can move on to executive announcements. I can share a little bit about what occurred at the Student Advisory Group for campus reopening on the 14th. And this group has pivoted a little bit since we're crazily almost halfway through the semester. The topics we're now discussing in that group are the upcoming election, cold weather / close of the semester / break, as well as the spring calendar going forward. So if you have any thoughts or questions on any of those topics, please feel free to send them our way so we can bring them up in the next Student Advisory Group meeting. And another really exciting announcement was today was the first meeting of the year of the University Committee on Women, Faculty, and Students, which Rachel and I serve on. And so our agenda today was all about discussion of Title IX changes in the academic articles. We were joined by General Counsel Matt Leahy, as well as Aaron Oliver from the Office of Institutional Equity. So that was really great to talk with that body of staff, faculty, and students, predominantly women, about how these changes may affect us in the coming semester and post that November 20th deadline as well. So if you're curious about that, would love to talk more on that front as well. And also exciting, we had the election of the chair of that group. So Laura Carlson, the Dean of the Graduate School, will be serving, and really looking forward to a great year with that group. Our next meeting on October 21st, we're going to have a conversation about campus climate and, of course, the forthcoming election, which will be nigh at that point. And without further ado, I can hand it over to Rachel Ingold for her executive announcement as well.
Hello. Hi, everyone. It's good to see you all today. Before we begin the Senate, after a turn of events today, I feel like there's something I need to address, so wanted to quickly speak with you all. This year in the Senate and outside of it, you all have come to know Sarah Galinski, and in knowing her, I'm sure that I don't need to tell you that her kindness, compassion, and goodness shine through in all of her interactions with people. She is truly one of the warmest and nicest people I've ever met, and I'm constantly blown away by her intentionality in conversation and selfless nature. I chose her as a running mate because I knew she lives out her faith and consistently works towards social justice. She spent last spring break on a CSC Act Justly seminar regarding racial justice in the American Civil Rights Movement, traveling through Memphis, Jackson, Selma, and Birmingham, and learning about the civil rights movement and its implications on today. On top of her already busy schedule, Sarah has opted to take the 1-credit class with the Clow Center on building an anti-racist vocabulary. And she has even hosted racial justice workshops for all of you, which included organizers of the student strike, in order to discuss how the Senate can be of the most help. And now that Sarah's character has been called into question, I find it very important to speak for the matter, not just for her personal sake, but for the sake of the entire student union and the legitimacy of what we all do together every week. This year has been challenging. With the coronavirus marking the beginning of our term and characterizing our transition, we've had to be as flexible as possible and try to remain resilient. We love getting the chance to work with you all every week and engage in fruitful dialogue about important issues, but we also dedicate a countless amount of hours behind the scenes. Sarah dedicates the majority of her days and nights to 3-hour faculty senate meetings, speaking with administrators, getting dinner with new fuelers, visiting hall councils, having conversations with leaders of student clubs, and on top of it all, working to ensure that the Senate is an efficient and effective body that can accurately represent the students. She is diligent about meeting deadlines and communicating with you all in a timely manner, and she is thoughtful about how to balance the multitude of needs and interests that you all bring to the table in order to make the best use of your time. This week, Sarah received a total of 5 resolutions. 3 were carrying over from last week, and 2 were submitted this week. Of these 2 additional resolutions, 1 was submitted past the Sunday night deadline that she so respectfully requested that you submit in order to get on the agenda this week. She had already scheduled a presentation from campus administrator in order to keep you all involved in dialogue on campus issues and amplify your voices to the actors holding power like we promised to do. And she also had 3 resolutions from the week prior on the docket, 1 that we didn't reach at the last Senate and 2 others that were already on new business. She let the authors of the latter 2 resolutions know that they would not be able to fit on the agenda this week out of respect for all of your time and our time capacity here today, but that she would be happy to have these discussions next week. In her correspondence on this resolution, she acknowledged that this was a significant issue, but she would welcome the discussion of the order at a future meeting. By no means did she deny debate time to a bill she didn't support or refuse to hear this piece of legislation. This mischaracterization of events and portrayal of Sarah as some kind of tyrannical and heartless leader is very disturbing to me, and it is simply untrue. Not only am I disappointed at the lack of consideration for the humanity of student leaders when waging these attacks at people who are truly dedicating their time and energy to serving students and instead espousing their public social irresponsibility. But I am frustrated with the way that these words now harm the mandate of the Student Senate and Student Union and tarnish its name. I've been grateful to the many senators who have reached out today expressing their support and interest in collaboration moving forward. And in the future, I would encourage using respectful and dignified means of achieving ends, as it is imperative to the success of the Student Union and us as a Catholic university. I now yield my time to Chief of Staff Aaron Benavides.
Thank you, Rachel. Dear members of the Senate, rarely does the Chief of Staff take on a little announcement like this, but today I decided it was necessary to speak to you on the issue which Rachel just spoke on. In my role as Chief of Staff, it is my duty to advance the mission of the student body president and vice president and manage and support our executive cabinet. Over the course of my term so far, I have found that it is incumbent on all of us to stand up for the student union and its actors who are devoted to bettering our university. As someone who has been a part of student government for nearly all of my time at Notre Dame, I truly believe that the work that we have been doing together in the student union is some of the most important work that it has ever done. The way we have come together from the different student union organizations to work together has been inspiring, to say the least. Rachel, Sarah, and I count ourselves blessed to work with great counterparts across the student union, especially with you all here. We remain committed to this cooperation and collaboration throughout our term. We recognize that there have been and will be points of disagreement, and we appreciate the opportunities we have had and will continue to share for dialogue and constructive conversation. However, what I cannot accept is what I saw published this morning, which was nothing short of a slanderous letter to the editor attacking Sarah for performing her duties as chair of the Senate. The blatant misinterpretation of the facts and situation was, in my opinion, unbecoming of any member of the student union. To completely lie about a situation to create a personal and political attack does not serve any purpose and simply distracts us from the essential work that we must undertake. The work we do is hard. Indeed, many of us in this room ran or assumed our positions, not knowing what our terms would look like in our present situation. Nevertheless, it is a privilege to serve our fellow students during this time, and we must recall what the preamble of the Constitution of the undergraduate student body says, and it calls us to achieve the greatest possible contribution to our community. Our positions in the student union are not about politics or careers. It is about serving the student body. I ask that we not be distracted by politics as we pursue social justice and building a better Notre Dame for all. With that, I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you, Rachel and Aaron. Without further ado, we can move to our general orders. I'd like to begin with SO 2021-07, which is an order to make $10,000 available from the Student Union COVID-19 Response Financial Account. Grace Stevenson is over Zoom today, the order's author, and so she has yielded her time to Aaron to read it out loud, but she will be responding to any questions you may have regarding the order. And yes, Michael Murakami. All right, we can have debate on that motion. Thank you, Michael. Second. Okay, wonderful. And we can now vote on that motion. Thomas gave me a thumbs. Was there the second? As in the second. Okay, we can close our debate and move to a vote. Thank you very much. Let's vote on that. Wonderful. Thank you all. Now we can now vote on Michael Murakami's motion. All in favor? Great. All opposed? Wonderful. Thank you all so much. We'll be able to adjourn today at 7:30. And Aaron, would you please read Grace Stevenson's order?
Senate Order 2021-07, in order to make $10,000 available from the Student Union COVID-19 Response Financial Account. Whereas proceeds from sales of Notre Dame football's The Shirt provide direct funding for the Office of Student Enrichment and the Student Union, whereas sales of The Shirt have significantly decreased in comparison to past years due to the unique circumstances of the COVID-19 pandemic, whereas future uncertainty remains about sales of The Shirt reaching the same level as in years past, whereas student union organizations already have access to their full monetary allocations from the spring allocation process and access to other sources of funding, such as the carry forward account, the technology fund, the collaboration fund, and the winter reallocation process. Whereas even though many other avenues of funding are available, the Financial Management Board wants to make a portion of the allocated funding from the financial account available, as long as applicant student union groups are able to prove that the money they request is going to support an initiative or set of initiatives that address concerns due to COVID-19 or address the unique circumstances of last semester and this current semester. Whereas the Student Union COVID-19 Response Financial Account was created to protect the overall financial well-being of the student union and to prioritize the needs of the fiscal year 2021-2022, ordered by the Student Senate of the University of Notre Dame du Lac that pursuant to SO 2021-02, the Financial Management Board shall set aside $10,000 from the Student Union COVID-19 Response Financial Account that the student union organizations and special interest groups may apply to be considered to receive allocations from. The remainder of the funds will remain within the Student Union COVID-19 Response Financial Account, giving FMB more time to study revenue generation from the Shirt and more time to more accurately forecast the needs of the student union in fiscal year 2021-2022.
Thanks so much for reading that, Aaron. We do have Grace Stevenson joining us in over Zoom. So I will now open the floor if there are any questions to be directed to Grace. Yes, Ricardo. That would be good so she could hear you best. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you guys. hear me, Grace?
I don't think-
Hello.
Oh, yeah, no, it's on.
You working now? Can you hear me, Grace?
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you again for writing this resolution. I think it is very well structured. I think it will do a lot of good for a number of organizations that may be struggling because of this pandemic in a financial sense. I do notice that the order clause does not explicitly have clubs written on it. So it does have student union orgs and special interest groups. Being that the CCC is a student union org, would you say that the FMB would, so to speak, smile upon sponsoring CCC initiatives to fund the clubs that may have been hampered via, or by, I should say, COVID-19, principally via the CCC contingency fund?
I'm going to answer your question with both a yes and a no. I think it is only fair that the spirit of the order is that the student union body has to apply for funding with the specific expenditure section. So in that case, I don't think you could apply proactively for funding. I think it would have to be retroactively to be truly in line with the enumerated principles of the original order and this one as well. But in saying that, I do think that you rightly acknowledge that clubs have been one of the student union organizations most impacted by the situation of the coronavirus pandemic. And in that case, I would endeavor to work my very best with you to make sure that clubs did receive that funding, because they seem to be, in my mind, not only just in FMB's mind, the group that would directly benefit the most. Does that answer your question?
If I may proceed with the second question. By the clauses currently inscribed in the CCC bylaws, we may actually not utilize the contingency fund to fund clubs retroactively. So we would most likely have to establish a separate fund, I guess, within the CCC accounts in order to allow clubs, I guess, to apply for funding that we can disperse to them in that fashion. Would the FMB, in that sense, entertain those appeals in that way by opening that secondary account? And I guess allowing the CCC to fund those clubs and then reimbursing the CCC for those expenses, insofar, of course, as it can be proven that they are COVID-19 related.
I think yes. I also, again, want to say that as we have not read any applications as a governing body, I do not stand as the gatekeeper to this financial account created. And so there is also a chance that FMB could say, you're asking for $2,000 proactively, and it could be approved. So I think, and again, this is a little circuitous and I apologize just because this is very much uncharted territory, but I think one, making a separate account that FMB would then reimburse CCC from seems to make a lot of sense, but also I think thinking consciously about what money you'd need and for why could also mean that you would get proactively approved. Does that make any sense?
That actually makes a lot of sense, Grace. It seems to me in that case that this fund could be used to help clubs in this sense, those hardest struck by the COVID-19 pandemic, and especially those interested in programming now that programming is back on the floor. So thank you for those answers. I look forward to collaborating with you further on club funding related with COVID-19.
Thanks, as always, Ricardo. I look forward to it too.
Awesome, great exchange. Any further questions for Grace, the disembodied Grace? Yeah, Mike. Okay, let's vote on that motion. Wonderful. We're now in debate. Any points of debate we'd like to raise? Yeah, Isabella. Okay, we can vote on that. Wonderful. Okay, all opposed? Cool. We are now in a vote over SO 2021-07. I'd like to see all of those in favor. Thank you. All of those opposed? Awesome. Grace, I know you can't see terribly well all of the hands, but it passed. So exciting.
Yay.
Good stuff. Thank you so much for your participation, Grace. Okay, without further ado, I believe this will be read by Matthew Bisner's proxy for the day, which is SO 2021-08, in order to suspend latecomer election. So if Tiffany is on Zoom, she can go for it.
Okay. Whereas only one candidate has been received by the Judicial Council for the position of first-year class council representative in the following dorms: Audrey Feldman, Kavanaugh Hall, Thomas Crapful, Dunn Hall, Therefore, be it ordered by the Student Senate of the University of Notre Dame du Lac that on recommendation of the Judicial Council, the elections for above positions be suspended and the aforementioned candidates declared the winners.
Thanks so much, Tiffany. We can now open the floor for any questions for Tiffany, who is representing Matthew this evening. Yeah, Mike. Okay, we can vote on that motion. Motion passes. We are now in debate. Do we have any points of debate on this order? Yeah, Mike. All right, we can vote on that motion. Fabulous, and the third time is the charm. We can now vote on SO 2021-08. All in favor? And all opposed? All right, Tiffany, I know you also could not see all of those hands, but your order passed with flying colors. So go Judicial Council. Thank you guys so much for wrapping up those elections. I know it's been a lot at the beginning of the term here.
Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Tiffany. And we can move on to SO 2021-09. And I would like to invite Aaron to read this order, which is proposing an amendment to the Constitution of the undergraduate student body, replacing the Executive Programming Board with the Executive Committee.
Thanks, Sarah. Our wonderful parliamentarian told me I didn't have to read the whole thing because that would take a bit. So I will provide a summary. So essentially, this Senate order would replace the Executive Programming Board, which in my role as Chief of Staff, I chair, with the Executive Committee. Essentially, what this does is it switches out the membership of EPB from mostly vice presidents, or in Sub's case, the directors of programming, to the presidents of the different student union branches, or the executive director. And that is basically about it. We do not have any policy-making powers. Obviously, all legislative power remains with the Senate. But essentially, the purpose of this committee, which I guess I can read to you, Section 1, is to serve as a forum for the executive officers of the student union branches to communicate and collaborate on policy programming and other issues relevant to the student body and student union as a whole. I believe that will summarize it as much as needed. So if anybody has any questions, by all means.
Yeah, any questions to be directed towards Aaron? Mike?
So you mentioned that Sub currently has its directors of programming on EPB, but it would move simply to the executive director and the executive committee. Now, from what I understand, EPB is supporting all its programming events. Sub does that. What was the logic behind reducing their membership on the committee?
Right. So I wish I could bring to you all of my, well, not all of them, but most of my recent predecessors. The chief of staff obviously chairs EPB, and over the past several years, EPB has really lacked a focus or a purpose or any sense of duty, I would say. Nothing was really ever accomplished. It either met really infrequently and just didn't do anything, or it met too frequently and just wasn't productive in any way, shape, or form. And so something that we have been thinking through, and something that has been important to Rachel, Sarah, and I, has been ensuring cohesion of the student union as a whole. And so informally, last semester, we actually gathered this group and began to talk through what we were doing in our respective branches and in our organizations and how we were adapting to the times. And now that we're back this semester, we have met as a body once again, and we see that this group accomplishes more of what EPB was supposed to do, but it never really got off the ground in the past, I would say, at least 4 years, which is the extent of my knowledge of it. It has been a continual recommendation of the chiefs of staff in transition documents to either blow it up or try to find something to do with it. And after a lot of discernment on this and communicating with all of the co-sponsors and those who have served on EPB, this was something that seemed much more efficient and purposeful and actually doing something to serve the student body.
Thanks so much, Aaron. Ricardo?
If I may add something as well as just to answer. Should I go up to the microphone?
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Sure, yeah, go for it, Ricardo.
So I do believe I may be the only one, or perhaps one of the few individuals who has served in both I guess, the proto executive committee as well as EPB. And I can safely say that from my perspective, the work we did in just one meeting of the proto executive committee was far more substantial than an entire semester of Prague board meetings. So I do believe, I fully agree with Aaron on this point. And I think that if you guys had been there in those Prague board meetings, as well as in that proto executive committee meeting, you would be able to tell the difference, I guess, in policymaking that can be achieved in those different groups, which is one of the reasons why I co-sponsor this resolution.
Yeah, Mairead, you're up next.
Okay, can I yell? That was really quick. Basically also about the note you made about reducing the number of sub-members that are on that committee. The position of the previous sub-members was a little bit more close to the actual programming events. And so even though we're replacing what would have been 3 of those people with just myself, the executive director, I serve in a position that is in much more communication with the rest of the student union as well as our advisors. So I have a little bit more of a higher level view of sub. And so while it's fewer people, I have like a larger scope of responsibility.
Thanks both Mairead and Ricardo. Those are 2 really helpful comments. Any further questions for Aaron or really any of the co-sponsors? Yeah, Ben.
So that I actually had in there under meetings and procedures, but by the Judicial Council's recommendation, we're going to put that in our bylaws. My vision for it is monthly. However, I cannot tell you that for certain because we have to approve bylaws as one body. But that would be my goal. Yeah, I think that would be very fruitful, and yeah, and Catherine will of course be there, the student union secretary, you know, to take the minutes. So absolutely, we'd be happy to provide updates.
Sweet, thanks for that, Ben. Any further questions? Yeah, Renee.
This might be kind of like a needless question, but how would like the sub kind of like not like student union, like if someone couldn't make it to an executive committee meeting, who would like be able to sub it?
Yeah, so I would say, again, we have to approve this and you'll be able to approve this when we vote on bylaws. I would envision like as long as your proxy is one of your student union organization officers, so your VP, treasurer, secretary, like that's what I would see. But again, once this body is formed, we can definitely figure out the specifics on that.
Any further questions, folks? Thanks for that clarification, Renee. Yeah, Sam.
At what point in this process do we propose a friendly amendment? Anytime? If no one else has any questions, I would like to propose a friendly amendment. Should I speak with microphones that are?
Yeah, go for it, Sam. Yeah.
Yes.
Sure. You guys are cool.
So the process for this,
Okay.
Oh, I can do that. Okay. Does anyone else have questions, or we can just do it in debate?
Great, let's vote on that motion. Okay, wonderful. We are now in debate. Sam, you're welcome to make your point of debate.
Thank you. Hey, guys. So as was noted, this actually came up as an informal group a few months ago, and I'll send in a few of our first messages into the Senate 2020-2021 group chat. It's a real treat. Now, as you'll read, the name that we agreed on was actually not executive committee, but the Guardians of Olympus. You can read through the other names if you like. They're all very nice. Rachel actually gave her final endorsement for Guardians of Olympus. Thought it was the best one, said she voted for it. But before we go into that, I want to tell you about an ancient Roman philosopher called Seneca. Seneca was a Stoic, and he had some really interesting ideas on our own finitude, which is something that we've all encountered at a certain point. And myself and my loved ones have encountered it at a certain point this week too. You know, in one essay called On the Shortness of Life, Seneca makes a pretty interesting take. He says that it's not that life itself is short. We have the years. Rather, it's that the way we use the time We just waste it away so that the time we enjoy is short. And then we really grapple and strain to take our life back. We waste it away with assignments we don't want to do, with work that's not really worth it, with public duties that are more perfunctory than actually effective. In wasting the years, we waste the hours, and we don't even enjoy the minutes. I enjoy your minutes, though. To loop us back, wouldn't it be the coolest if there were minutes for a group called Guardians of the Olympus? That would just be the coolest. I mean, all of these meetings are perfunctory to a degree. We go through parliamentary procedure instead of just actually having a conversation with each other. For this reason, I propose to you, my fellow senators, that we should rename this executive committee as what it was originally called, as something that's actually fun, the Guardians of Olympus. Put it in the Constitution. Put it in the minutes. My friends and fellow senators, let us not waste the hours. Rather, let us enjoy the minutes.
Yes, Thomas Davis. Okay. Karen Kennedy.
I would just like to say that I always love to hear from San Canova. For those of you I don't know, I'm the advisor to Student Senate. I would also like to say that I have to sign off on any change made to the Student Union Constitution as the advisor to the Student Senate. And I would like to say that I would certainly support this resolution. I would not support the name. And I would like to have further conversation if that were actually voted, because I would really like to reflect the officialness of the Student Senate and the Student Government Notre Dame. So I would like to say that. I would like to have further conversation if that actually were to pass. I do not say that I would actually support that going into the Constitution.
Thank you, Karen. I think I saw a Thomas Davis hand.
Please don't vote for Sam's amendment. I love you, Sam, though. In the bylaws, I'm sure you could do that. However, my concern is a bit different. Oh, come on, Sam. As you may know, in Article 1, Section 5, Clause 1, subsection A, before an amendment is made to the Constitution, it must be reviewed by Judicial Council through the President and myself. Matthew and I have both discussed about this, and we are not sending our approval at this time for this amendment. With that, I will say that Aaron has done incredible work, as well as the co-sponsors. The purpose and mission of this committee, I entirely approve. However, some of the logistics, as you know, we have a special committee called the Committee on the Constitution, which is going through this exact work. And I believe that this would be a fantastic first project. It's like 85% there. And for years after years after years, I'm not saying this is a bad amendment. It's because it's not. But lukewarm amendments have been amended to this Constitution that have made it the 51-page bear of, I have to respect it, but certainly not honorable government, student government. The article that it's replacing is not required to meet officially until October. That gives us plenty of time. This committee has been, well, Proto Committee has been meeting in an informal capacity up until now, which it could continue to do so. But what I would love to do, and I'd certainly suggest this and advise this to the Senate, that this amendment be referred to the Committee on the Constitution, not for my own sake, but for the sake of the student union going forward. I think this is an excellent first project for us to work on. If you have specific issues as to why Judicial Council is not submitting this approval, I'm all here for it. But in general, I don't want to take up too much time. These are the reasons. So thank you.
Thank you, Thomas Davis. Yeah, Renee.
In support of Sam, I would like to add that some of the other possible names for this group, according to the group that Sam referenced, were the Executive Council, which is not too far off from the Executive Committee, which only received one vote. Just like to point out her friends, the scene as in Selena Gomez and the scene. And Karen, another contender was Karen's group. So, thank you. Just wanted to point that. But, yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. I think Guardians of Olympus is definitely more professional than some of those names. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much for that reference, Renee. Very helpful. Yes, Aaron.
Thank you, Renee. I have to confess, I did vote for the Selena Gomez reference. Big Selena Gomez stan. Thank you, Thomas, and to the Judicial Council. And this was something that did come up. And the reason I did want to forge ahead with this was because I think it's really important that we do get this body together. And I think EPB has been on its just deathbed essentially for a few years now. And I just would hate to see this get like pushed any further. I do think that the work that we have accomplished, like coming together in the executive committee thus far has been really fruitful and really powerful, and something that, again, fostering greater student union cohesion is so important to Rachel, Sarah, and I. And I would ask that you please push it on through. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, Mike.
To add on to second Aaron's point, the Constitution does not require Judicial Council to approve an amendment. It requires consultation with Judicial Council. It appears because Judicial Council has expressly made a ruling that does not like this, that consultation has occurred. And while I do respect Thomas and as a member of the Constitution, I do respect that mentality. We do have something that's very good in front of us. I don't think we should waste it. Therefore, I move to end debate and move to a vote on the motion.
If you second this, you're dead to me.
Senator Dugan is correct. We don't have to actually approve it, but we are saying to you, a lot of the work and a lot of the time I've been spending my summer and Judicial Council have been spending our summer on is to make this Constitution as good as it can be. And simply sending this to committee for 1 week will make it perfect. And then this will be an article that we do not have to touch going forward for the next 3 years, which will save a lot of you and a lot of your successors time. This is not something, Aaron, to be completely honest, we're not going to kick this down the road. If you send it to committee this week, we'll have it. I just need extra time to take a look at it, give it to committee members, and it'll be ready to go next week. I will have 0 objections. But that's up to you all. This is your job. But just know that in the past, amendments have been taken very lightly. And I can all but guarantee none of you have read the Constitution all the way through. Besides Michael Dugan, that's true. Let's work together to make it possible so that your successors can do that without a problem. Thank you.
If I can, question for you then. So if we do get a motion to table, could then, obviously I know I can't motion, but if I do ask for someone to motion to table it to your committee, could you get it back like for next week?
Yes.
I would be happy with that, and I cannot motion, so if anybody wants to do that by any means.
Yeah, there were still some other questions. I saw both Henry Jackson and Isabella Garcia, if you guys want to express those sentiments, and then we could move to that. Oh, awesome. Great, Henry. What about you, Isabella? Oh, okay. Then if there are further no questions, offer it. Thomas, guide us through this.
That's not exactly the one that I was hoping for, sorry. I was a little vague. I'm not good on Parley Pro.
The motion I believe we're looking for is a referral to the Committee on the Constitution.
We have to vote on this one, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so if you would like to vote for the motion as stands, you can say yes. If you say no, we would be proposing a new motion down the line. So yes, the current motion, Lainey, is just to table it. And the resolution that they were seeking was to table it and refer it to the Committee on the Constitution. Would that be correct?
The table never had a second, so. Oh, was there? I didn't hear it. My bad.
All is well. All is well. Yes, point of order. I would defer that to Thomas Davis.
We are currently in debate on tabling, but you would essentially be tabling it to the next point because I don't think there's anything next on the agenda.
That's fair. Yes, Madison. As always, I refer to Thomas Davis.
She can withdraw her motion.
Thank you, Isabella. Much appreciated. Isabella, are there any other motions on your mind?
That is a really good question. I'm going to say it one more time before I say it out loud. Thomas, what did you want again?
To refer this order to the Committee on the Constitution.
You know what, Sarah? I would like to make a motion.
I'm so glad that just came to you, Isabella. Do we have a second? Second, exciting. Okay, then let's vote on that motion.
Debate on the
Vote on
motion.
debate on that motion. Okay, fabulous. Awesome. I now hear a vote to close debate. Let's vote on that vote to close debate. Okay, wonderful. We have made it to the final vote, folks. This is the final vote on Isabella's motion to refer SO 2021-09 to the Committee on the Constitution. All in favor? All opposed? All right, Sam Canova, I apologize, but in the bylaws, it'll be Guardians of Olympus, I can promise you. Okay. Thomas, I feel like you may want to say something here.
Thank you. See you in a week. Happy Constitution Day, by the way.
Yes, Turbo Vote reminded me many times that it's Constitution Day today. Wonderful. Yes, Mike. We actually have announcements first. Does anybody have an announcement? Yeah, Carson, go for it. Thank you so much, Carson. Really looking forward to Civic Engagement Week. Murray, did I see a hand?
Yes, Acoustic Cafe tonight, Library Lawn, 9 p.m. And also Birds of Prey back in D-Bar 101 tonight at 8:30 and tomorrow at 5:15 and 7:30. And also movies are now free.
Ooh.
Hear that? Tell your friends for the entire year.
Amazing. And if I may make a pun, Mairead, a little bird of prey told me that Rachel Engel may be performing tonight at 10 at Acoustic Cafe. Exciting. Okay, any further announcements, folks? Okay, there we have it. Oh, we should vote on that. I always do that. Let's vote. That looks like a beautiful majority. Thank you all so much for your time. I hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead.